everybody, and welcome to episode 6 of the Raw, Real and Relevant show with me, your host, Lockie McNeil. If it's your first time with us, thank you so much for joining us. In a moment, we're going to be having a chat with Mary Ponder. Now, she's the creator of the Choices course, which helps people dealing with negative cycles and stuff like that we sometimes have in our lives. And I'm really looking forward to talking with her and you hearing a little bit about what that's about. It has personal reference for me from a number of years ago. I really thought it'd be a good thing for us to talk about, and especially hanging out with Mary all the way from Westport in the South Island. And it helps counter some, nice positive criticism, I suppose, because someone said we're having too many men on the show. We started the show for episodes 1 and 2 with ladies, and then we got shifted over some guys. Now we've got a lady back on the show. So for all of you who are concerned about affirmative action or whatever you're wanting to do, we've got that covered. So no more complaints about that one. And the second thing we're doing tonight, so we're going to finish the show with your mental health tips. Now, I think it was about a week ago, I put on all my socials, I said, just put it out there. Hey, what's your number one go-to mental health tip that you would love to share with everybody else? It's something that you do or you think was really, really helpful. And I've got a whole bunch of great things that people have submitted to share with you tonight. So that's going to be coming up straight after our interview with Mary. Now, before all that, if you like what we're doing, usual story, smash the like and share and comment and all that sort of stuff. That means just be enthusiastic and passionate about it. But anyway, say hello in the comments. Let us know where you're coming from as well in New Zealand or wherever you are. You might be watching somewhere else in the world, and it's an honour to have you with us. If you're wanting to support us, it's nice and simple. You are doing it already by being here. Please, if you think we're doing a great job, share it around with other people during the week, especially if it's a topic or something that's come out of the show you'd think would be helpful for someone else in your life, your family, work, whatever it is. Let's just try and help each other out with our mental health right now. We also have a thing called Buy Me a Coffee, and because most of you who know me know that I really love that brown elixir of goodness that brings life to my body every single day. But this is an online platform where you can support the show for as little as $3. It's totally cool. If you want to do it, don't do it. It's totally fine, but just kind of putting it out there. So if you go to buymeacoffee.com/Lockie, you can find me right there. And thank you to all of you generous people who have been so amazing in the last little while. Sharing and supporting us is really cool. Enough of me talking right now. Let's roll that stinger, and we'll be back real soon with our conversation with Mary Ponder. Well, joining me on the show right now on the Real, Raw and Relevant show, it's my pleasure to welcome Mary Ponder as our next guest. Good evening, Mary.
Good evening, Lockie.
So good for you to take the time to talk with us today. The reason why, if people are wondering why, Mary has a bit of a loose connection to me through something that happened a little while ago. But just so you know who she is, Mary is a counsellor, ex-counsellor, and currently a pastor in Westport, of all places in New Zealand. Do you like living on the coast?
It's great. We love it. Yeah, best kept secret in New Zealand.
And does it rain every single day like everyone else thinks about in New Zealand?
No, no, not at all. But we don't tell people that just in case they all decide to move here.
Fair enough. Yeah, I've been through there once. I know that when I was a teenager, I remember as a teenager, my dad took my sister and I on a camper van trip around the South Island, and we went through Greymouth and Westport and Franz Joseph and all those kind of areas. So I've only been there once, and granted that was probably about 30 years ago, so I'm probably due for another visit. So you never know, I might be in your neck of the woods again one day. But the reason why the reason why we're really keen to have Mary on the show is this. Hopefully I can do this without bumping everything. It's a folder. There's her name down the bottom there. Whoop, going the wrong way. Everything's all backwards. Many years ago, when I started a new role in a church-based organisation, someone suggested to me that they take me through some material based on a course called Your Choices. And part of it was talking about cycles, and cycles that we end up sometimes being on and sometimes not even really recognising it. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to ask Mary to be on the show was because she wrote the material, and I thought it'd be really good in light of our discussions around mental health to talk about cycles and what might be triggering people. They might not even realise it's happening in their lives. I'm not 100% sure how we're going to break this down or get this started, so I thought let's just have a conversation, see where it goes, and then bring it into land. So Mary, you want to tell us a little bit about the concept about cycles and how that might influence our mental health?
Sure. So a cycle is just like any sort of repetitive behaviour, patterns or responses, a process you go through over and over again, usually with the same or similar outcome. And usually that's a negative outcome. And it's negative on yourself, on your relationships with others, your mental health, your emotional health. And it can be pretty tough because people don't know a lot of the time how to get out of those cycles.
So you've created this material that's been around for quite a long period of time, and we're going to talk about what's going to be happening next with it before we close. I'm just wondering, for people out there who have got some challenges right now with their mental health, there may be a couple of them or a few of them that would potentially fall into this camp of there's a cycle that they go through. That there's this moment, this thing that happens in their life kind of triggers a response. How do people figure out whether a cycle is something they need to deal with?
Well, it's usually triggered by some sort of circumstance or situation. So they have like a stress or crisis or pressure, and suddenly they're responding out of character to that in some way. It changes their behaviour, or it changes the way they're thinking, or it changes just how they're responding to other people, and they kind of get into that and think, heck, what's happening to me? And they don't really know what to do about it, and they kind of just wait till time goes by to move out of it. And that is the kind of the what you'd call a common factor of a cycle.
So when you're referring to cycles, one of the things that I learned from just going through this material was that there was certain key moments that happened in my life that I didn't even realize at the time. I'm not going to get into a psychosomatic kind of thing here, but I didn't realize how much of an influence they have. So maybe just to help people understand where I'm coming from on this is I'm actually coming up to a pretty important birthday, but as I've grown up, I've actually always dreaded my birthday, but I never really understood why I dreaded my birthday. And I used to say to people, and I actually have still recently said, I just don't like being disappointed by my birthday. And this was actually part of why I went through the material and realized there were some things that happened when I was younger around birthdays. And so every time I come around to a birthday again, the emotions, the feelings, whatever I had back on that first moment where it went a little bit haywire, those come back up for me. And I didn't know that, and until I recognised what that trigger was, I couldn't deal with it. Now, would that be typical of someone who's got those sort of cycles, and what kind of working with you or someone like you could actually help with? Would that be a good way of approaching this for people?
Yeah, our cycles come from several different things. They come from our response to a huge crisis that maybe we've never experienced before, but that also come from learned behaviour. So from where perhaps the pattern and the way your parents dealt with things will come up, and but also disappointments, abuse, rejection, all of those kind of tricky things you can't really put your finger on at the time. They all influence and impact how you respond in the here and now.
I I have huge fond memories of going through this process, even though I felt really uncomfortable at the time because I had no idea where it was really going. Just so if people are wondering, because when we're talking about cycles, I've still got my cycle chart. It's got lots on there, just so people have got an idea, because there's certain things that I've discovered for a lot of us, and it does influence our mental health, because if there's something or a crisis like you've talked about, or abuse that's happened, it does cause this cyclical thing to happen. You might recognize that in your own life. You might recognize that at a certain time of the year, the month, an event that's like an anniversary of something, you go on this cycle, the spiral, and you feel like it's kind of a little bit out of control. And would it be fair to say that while it feels like that, if people learn how to deal with it properly, that the power of that is loosened in someone's life?
Yeah, and so there's things that you can start to become aware of, and so let me just run you through something that happens. So
That'd be good.
So you've got the event. A crisis, maybe say a financial crisis, and that happens, and we have an initial response to that, and it might be panic, fear, confusion, powerlessness, sense of failure. Now, none of those are nice feelings. We don't like them, we hate them, we want to get rid of them, and that's what starts the cycle off. You see, stress is not it's not just something that happens occasionally to people. Stress is part of life. But once it starts triggering that cycle, the initial feelings start to move, and our thinking starts to change. And we start saying things like, I'm never going to get this right. This always happens to me. I can't fix it. Things will never change. So the always, never, can't, and won't starts to come up in the way we're thinking. We may say it, but mostly we think it in our head. And so the cycle starts to shift, and then very quickly, or not, cycles can last a few minutes to days, weeks, months, even years. Okay, so the next step in this is the physical response. So we start having a physical response in our body, and you might get a headache, your shoulders might ache, the tension, dry mouth, sleep issues. You know, it's a big list of all sorts of things that can happen to our body. And if we can start realizing at that point, hey, I've got a headache, oh, this was going on just a moment ago, even then you might be able to grab it before it goes any further. Because the next one after that is the behavior, our behavior response, you're looking here for changes in what's normal for you. So suddenly your sleep goes out the window where you normally sleep quite well, or you're eating differently. All that lovely chocolate that suddenly you're craving, or you are usually a reliable person, and you start not showing up. You start isolating yourself. Energy levels and motivation starts to drop. Abusive behavior can fit in here. Alcohol and drug increase, addictions, compulsions, all sorts of behaviors get triggered by this thing. And in our need to want to cope, and in our need to want to get a handle on it. After the behavioral, now this is just put in a cycle for a reason, and they all interchange together. And you might think, well, I start having difficulty in my relationship before I change, but it doesn't matter which way it goes. We just do this for convenience. So the next one is relational. What starts to happen in your relationship with other people? Isolating, shutting down, withdrawing affection, rejecting behaviors, or clinging, blaming, punishing behaviors. All of those start to come in if that cycle goes on, and it affects your spiritual life as well. And so suddenly people can't worship the same, or they've stopped praying, or they can't read the Bible. All of those things start to happen too. And then the next one, and he goes, fuel. The next one is the emotional response. And this is where the deep feelings you might have about yourself surface. They may be hidden, but they're damaging to our self-esteem. They're damaging to our confidence and our competence. And so we get riddled with shame, guilt. It's a big list: hopelessness, helplessness, worthlessness, fear, powerlessness, isolated, shut down, hurt, depression, myriad of anger and fear goes on there for all sorts of things. And so in that deep place, if people get stuck in that, if people get, if they can't shift or move from that, they may develop a huge amount of anxiety, depression. All of those sort of things start to come in when that happens. And so the whole idea of the cycle is to not just, first of all, you need to recognize what's going on. And then secondly, how do you get yourself out of that cycle? And the more you're able to recognize yourself in the cycle, then you have a choice, which is why it's called Your Choices.
Right.
Then you have a choice to go, okay, I'm in this cycle. What do I do to get out? And the idea here, of course, is to build resources on how to get out of this cycle. And because you know what, we all have these cycles. They might be just minimal, or they might be quite strong, but we all have them. We're all capable of doing it, and we're all capable of learning how to shift ourselves out of that cycle. So, so once you identify it, you've got a choice. You've got a choice to get out, and the more strategies you have to draw on, the better it is. And the challenge, of course, is to build those strategies. So I'm talking about just simple things like positive action. Sometimes time goes by, it gets us out, but talking, prayer, reconciliation, apologizing, just the talking thing, journaling, counseling, creativity. You know, sometimes it's a practical thing, and as I said at the start, if it was finance, maybe money comes in and it shifts you out of that cycle. So writing, exercise, just nature, all of that sort of thing can start shift you out. And we need to build a whole lot more of that in our life, because we're not very good at taking care of ourselves. And hence why so many people burn out. So many people find themselves in depression. So many people find themselves in an alcoholic issue or domestic violence or whatever. And they all begin with these cycles.
So do you think it would be fair to say that it's easier for other people to recognise cycles in other people than it is in ourselves?
Of course, because they're standing there going, what is going on with that person? Suddenly they make one little comment, and I'm talking from myself here. So Keith will make a little comment, and I'll just be absolutely explode, and, you know, super sensitive, and he's kind of standing there going, what on earth is going on? He recognises it, but very often we're not ready to hear that person speak and say, hey, there's something going on. But they can certainly help you identify it. Yep. And they will give you a whole much bigger list than I have today about what you do.
This is awesome. And the reason why, again, hopefully people are picking up why I wanted to talk to you about this is because this is an area you've done a whole lot of work on, and the material you've had it for years and years and years. And my understanding, as we're going to make some announcements about that shortly, is that you can, if this is something that you're sitting there going, hang on a second, maybe I've got some cycles, and I could need some help with it. How do I unpack that? How do I build some tools around dealing with that? You've got some material you're going to be able to help people with. Before I mention that, I do want to give a big shout out to Julie Ballantyne. She doesn't know I'm going to do that. And she was the one who recognised that I might have had a bit of a cycle that I need to deal with when I was a bit younger. And I'm very grateful that she took me through your material years ago. And I've kept this folder for what, I don't know, it's like 15, 16 years now I've had this folder on my shelf. So I'm very grateful for what you've done and what she did with me. So if you're out there and you're wanting to have a next step, we've got some cool news for you. So Mary is going to be launching something called Ignition Plus in the new year. Is that right?
Okay, so Ignition Plus is my little company, if you like, and I have about 10 courses that I run. And so Your Choices, which is my signature program, which is what we're talking about today, that will be running hopefully online. We'll probably do a Zoom kind of meeting, and people can get in touch with me on my Ignition Plus Facebook page.
Fantastic. And I would encourage you, if this has pushed some buttons for you out there, then make sure you contact Mary through the Ignition Plus Facebook page. We're going to post a link to that shortly with the show so they can get in contact with you. So Mary, thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate your time, and looking forward to seeing how many extra people you can help just like me around the world.
Sounds great. Thanks, Lockie.
Thanks, Mary. Catch you soon.
See you later. Bye.
Wasn't that great? That was so good. Thank you so much, Mary, for taking the time. As I said, we have amazing people all around our country who have something that they can bring to the table to help us with our mental health. You do, for someone like me, I just look at myself as just trying to get all this information in front of you to try and help. It's so cool being on a journey, and being part of that is to help you guys as well. And you've been helping me and a whole bunch of others by doing something we posted recently on all my socials. So let's see if I can find the right graphic here. Boing, look at that. I put this out there. What would you suggest? That was the whole idea of what would you suggest to someone? What would be your go-to mental health tip? I stuck it on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. Oh, I'm so down with it, aren't I? And I had amazing responses. And what I thought I'd do is I'd just put some of them on the screen that will just cover it off. I'll just share a brief little comment about them because I want to. It's my show. And I really appreciate everyone who's gone to the trouble of actually posting something. So the first one here is from Tracy Holmes. And she says this: definitely nature and exercise. Again, the reference is, what's your top mental health tip? Hers is definitely nature and exercise, being outdoors, photography, sitting near a lake and watching birds. Well, I live by a lake, so that's tick, tick, tick. Seems simple, but it brings you back to living in the moment, listening to music, lying on the grass, looking at the sky after a jog, walking on the beach. Just keep moving your body. That is a great bunch of advice. And don't be overwhelmed by everything that's all there. That's something obviously Tracy does, and maybe there's something in there that would help you or sparks you to want to do something different. I have to say that the one thing I've learned about my mental health in the last couple of years is I didn't get out of the place that my bad mental health was in. So what I would be is I'd stay in my office or I'd stay in a task and I'd be feeling bad, but I just keep doing it because I wanted to get through it. And one of the key things I've learned is sometimes a change of scenery just does the world of wonders for what's going on inside your head. Who we got next? We got William Percival. He wrote this: simple guitar practice every day. It will keep your brain in check. Same for people with dementia. Great advice, because I love guitar. So number one, I'm a fan. But the thing that I think William's bringing up here is important. Doing things that exercise your brain gently, not like beating yourself up when you've got some mental health challenges. They're really good for you. They actually help develop your brain. Doing the same thing every day like it's just this boring old track you're stuck on, it doesn't make you feel any good. And Mary mentioned it before, others I think are going to mention this, having a creative outlet is really good for your mental health. Now, guitar is not for everybody. You can't all rock like me, I'm sorry, but maybe you're a great artist, or maybe you can do other creative expressions. you don't have to get out there showing everybody. Even just doing it privately could be really helpful for you right now. Next up, we've got Angie Tune. She seems to have changed her name. I thought your name was Ange, but now it's Angie. So, you just obviously wanted more letters in your first name. Anyway, another whole story. Nature, that's for Ange. For me, getting out in the bush or by a river type thing lifts my heart. I feel clearer and more energized mentally, and I start smiling at the beauty of it all. Plus, I find I reconnect with God more as I am in awe of what an amazing, intricate world He has got us living in. Man, this change of scene thing, it keeps coming up. I think if that's the one thing you get from these hints and from me, don't stay in the same place in your funk. Shift yourself out of it and see what happens. And getting outside and going for a walk and doing something else and looking at the world around you. I've probably missed it now and wherever you are, but the sunsets we've been having lately have been amazing. And it's funny, just staring at a sunset can make you feel a whole lot different about your life. Next up, we've got Nicole Gray. What does Nicole say? She says, cold dips or cold showers have been a game changer for me and my mental health. Nicole, you are a machine. You are hardcore. I don't know if that would be the first go-to thing that I do if I'm feeling bad. I'm just going to have a cold shower. But maybe there's something in this. So maybe if you're feeling a bit stink, go jump in a cold shower. Probably take your mind off the fact you're not feeling so good and the fact you may be a little bit cold. I don't know. But there's something about, I think what Nicole's probably getting at, and hopefully I'm right, is there's something about that kind of shock to your senses a little bit, where your senses, your nervous system gets a little bit of a shake up and gets you possibly out of your funk and gets you thinking and feeling a whole lot different. So thank you for that, Nicole. Next up, we've got Alison Codlin, another Aucklander. Get out in nature, the bush, sea, anything. Look, see, this is the theme. Get out of your house, get out of your bedroom, get away from the TV and go outside, even if it's for a few minutes. We've got the sun's coming out a whole lot more at the moment. It's a lot warmer. Yes, be sun smart and all those good things, but maybe just getting outside and sitting in the sun and getting, is it vitamin D we get from the sun? You smart people probably put it in the comments there, which vitamin we get from the sun. Get out there, change your scenery. That'd be really, really good for you. Next up, we've got Corby Meister. Corby says, exercise is massive. Natural chemicals our bodies get to relish in relish in accomplishments. Sorry if I didn't read that out 100% correct. Exercise is important, and many of you will know I used to be mega into sport. I love my multi-sport and all that bits and pieces, but with my brain being a bit broken and the way that I was and my body not supporting it, I haven't done as much. But what I have been doing in the last month or so is I've been slowly increasing the amount of exercise that I'm doing. It might not look like it with my round little face I've got these days, but I've been for 2 runs today, 2 short ones, and I love just getting outside. I'm not running as fast as I ever used to, but I love the fact that I feel good about myself after I've done some exercise. And there's a link, as we know, between our bodies and our brains. We've been hearing this on other shows. So if you've got a healthy body, you're more likely to have a healthy brain. So give that one a try. Just do something simple. Don't go running if you're not a runner. Go for a walk around the block and just build up slowly if you're not feeling good about yourself, and have those accomplishments do something for your brain. Next up, we've got Brad Pennyfather. Here's a decent, where am I sitting here? There we go. Sort of cool on, but then I can't hear myself on the mic. Anyway, Brad says this: I think it's a tough one, especially for males. As in society, there is a negative stigma around men's mental health. I think a good point would be surround yourself with men or people you trust to talk about how life is going, learning that it's okay not to be okay, and finding good support is key. I find getting out in nature is always a good way for perspective. See this, getting outside, it just keeps coming up and up and up. You guys are onto something. Hey, thanks, Brad, for bringing up about men's mental health. I'm a big fan. Naturally, I'm a guy, and I think guys are awesome, and I think guys can be even more awesome if we actually deal with the mental health challenges that we basically all of us have at some stage, and being honest and finding the right people to talk to is really, really important, which segues beautifully, I think, into the next one we've got from Mark Droniak. What's he said here? He says, only talk. That's his suggestion. Share with friends you can trust. Sharing with friends with trust is a big one. Some people have the empathy of a rock. I think Mark's had some experience with that, obviously. And friends that are non-judgmental are worth their weight in gold. Amen to that, bud. You got to talk. sometimes this is the hardest thing, I think, for people who are really struggling, because you want, or you have shut down a little bit, and you don't want to trust yourself or put yourself out there with some people. You don't want to get hurt. You're not feeling great about yourself. The one thing I would, and I've kind of learnt this myself, is you don't need a crowd, you need your crew. And what I mean by that, I've said it different ways over these different shows, you don't need a whole big fan base to get you through a mental health challenge. You just need that one person you could talk to, or a group of people. I know for me, we've had a group of great friends who we've hung out with nearly every Friday night for over a year now. And without those people, and you know who you are, I don't want to embarrass you. You guys, you have no idea what that's done for me. Some nights I'm a little bit quieter than others, but you've made a huge difference. I've got another really good friend who lives in Auckland, who is on here right now. And when we chat on the phone, that makes a huge difference to me when we can. And another really amazing mate who lives in Taupo, and we get together every couple of weeks, probably should get together more, and we just go somewhere and hang out and talk and ask how each other are. You just need someone to talk to. Please, if you're struggling right now, just find someone you trust to talk even just a little bit with. It's not like a 2-hour thing. Maybe you've got 5 minutes and you just share something you can trust them with, and that will make a huge difference for your life. Next up, we're on the home stretch now. I think we've got 3 left from the selection I picked. I wanted to get a bunch, okay? Next one is from Anna Money. Decent sleep. Totally hard to get sometimes, and breathing properly from the stomach, not the chest. 2 amazing bits of advice. Number 1, if you aren't sleeping, you are not going to feel good at all, not just physically, but mentally. And so for me, and it's not about me, just to use me as an example, I was not sleeping well before my burnout all happened, and I hadn't been sleeping well for a long, long time. And unashamedly, I started taking a form of medication, which is not just a sleeping tablet, but something to calm myself down, because most of us who are struggling know that nighttime is not the best time. Sometimes when you're lying in your bed in the middle of the night, you're just feeling absolutely awful, and your brain goes, and if you're like me, you can't shut down, and because you can't shut down, you don't sleep, and then you wake up the next morning exhausted, and you feel just as bad as what you went to bed the night before. I encourage you, if you need some help with sleep, speak to your doctor, speak to someone else who knows what they're talking about. Do not go on Facebook and ask for everybody's home remedy. You'll be there all day weeding through all the wackiness. Get some great advice on that. And Anna mentioned about breathing as well. I know that when people are anxious, we tend to get a bit more short in our breath, if that's the right way to explain it. So maybe you could explore some breathing techniques. For those of you who are worried about that, that is not some weird Eastern religion thing. Breathing properly is good for your body, okay? Nat Kitty, spending time doing what I love. That's one of her great suggestions. And also prioritizing doing something each day, even if it's small. Man, we're on the home stretch and I'm running out of breath. Not breathing properly, obviously. Spending time doing what you love. You got to be kind to yourself. I know that that's what we heard on our very first show from Julia Grace. If you didn't catch that episode, go back to episode 1 and catch what she was saying. But being kind to yourself is really important. Beating yourself up, either verbally, emotionally, running yourself down, will not improve your mental health. I understand that one now. I'm the worst person at that, I think, sometimes. You need to do something that you love. So if maybe it is going back to what one of our friends said here, William, about playing guitar. I love playing music, and I do a lot more playing of music in public and private than I ever have, and it does a lot for my mental health. And that prioritizing just something each day. See, you want to know that when you know you've achieved something, it makes you feel better. If you're overwhelmed by all the things that you're not getting done, doesn't make you feel good. So what I do each day is I just have a little list of things that I want to do, and I feel better if I can see I'm knocking something off the list. Maybe that will help you as well. And finally, the irony of all ironies with this last one, which is quite cool, and it's from my mate Glennis from Rotorua, who is right here. So Glennis, you're getting to help wrap this all up. Take regular breaks from FB, which is, for those of you who don't know, Facebook. I'd say take regular breaks from this, or what other device you have that you stick your face in for prolonged periods of time to try and escape the world. For some people, it's the TV. Other people, it's like reading book after book after book. So sometimes those things are good, but you've got to get the level, the moderation part built into it. I know for me that if I spend 3 hours scrolling through Facebook, I don't feel better. I could argue or present some case that maybe I'm informed or I know what's going on in other people's lives, but don't make me feel any better. So limit that if you can, and do what other people suggested. Put the Facebook away and go for a walk outside. Go enjoy the sun. If you live like where I live in Taupo, you got this amazing lake. Go for a walk by the lake. It will do amazing things for your mental health. Cool. Hey, thank you everybody for your contributions. You guys have made this an amazing show. I hope you've really, really enjoyed it for episode 6. So again, thanks to Mary Ponder for taking the time to talk with us. I'm going to post a link real soon to her Facebook page, so you don't have to go trying to track that down. Thanks to all of you for your mental health tips. It's been an honor to share some of the amazing ones that have come in. And thank you for joining us. We hope this makes a measure of difference in your life, especially if you're on some form of mental health journey like many of us are. Look after yourself, and we'll see you real soon. Catch ya.